had Gethin Pearson on the podcast back in January. Yeah, a while back now. Who did your last two records? Last two, right?
He did Bad Company. He did Simplicity, and then the Ceiling with us.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Got a very kind of chilled out kind of atmosphere about him.
Chilled out? Is that how you describe it?
That's how he came across in the podcast. How does he come across in the studio?
He's absolutely the complete opposite when he's in the studio. He's slightly. I thought he was slightly mental the first time I met him. Actually, the first time I met him was actually he was playing keyboards for The Enemy when we went on tour with them, because he was producing their album at the time. So they were touring and doing this album at the same time. So they roped him in on keyboards for the tour. So because we were all sharing a tour bus, that's how we got to meet him. And then next thing you know, he's doing our next records. So.
Why do you think he was slightly mental the first time you came upon him?
He just was. He's just this crazy Welsh bloke. Just talks just random stuff all the time, which obviously we love because our humour's terrible. So, no, we really just locked onto him really, because it's like he doesn't take anything serious. He doesn't take anything too seriously really, and like that's pretty much us all the time. So that was it.
How long after that did you know you were going to work with him?
I mean, he was voicing his like opinions on our releases up to that point when we was on tour with The Enemy. You know, it's heard our first album, and he was just saying what he would have done differently, not in a negative way, but he was just he was very interested in working with us on something, just so he could because he just wanted to do it, because he had some ideas about like our sound and everything like that. We were open to the idea of doing that, and then from there on, it was really comfortable working with him. So we stayed with him for the next two records, just because we know how he works, and once you know how it's going to be in that certain dynamic, it's less risk. It's a big risk taking on a new producer, really, because there's always that potential that you might not work well together, but we do with him. So.
Do you think it then enables you to take more risks in the music? Because if you look at the progression from Simplicity to The Ceiling, there's a pretty big jump there in terms of what you're doing with it.
Yeah, definitely. Gethin kind of opened up the door to show us what we could do. So then when we went to then write for the Ceiling, we were bearing that in mind. It's like, I can imagine recording this in the studio, which dramatically changed the sound really. So when we went into the studio, he was buzzing, because he was like, he was really on the same page. And it makes you want to take more risks, because it's not really a risk at that point though. It's more excitement, because you know that it's possible. So we did it.
Yeah, I mean, they always say that the only risk is to take no risks. Like, it's a risk standing still. Everything else, it's not really a risk. As long as you're doing something that feels true. Yeah,
the only risk was it sounding a bit boring. Just not boring, just not taking a song to its full potential. We were always, what more could we do to this without overproducing it? You know, so that was the only risk, really.
How do you know when to stop?
Oh, God. How long's a piece of string? Yeah. I don't know. It's you don't really have you can carry on doing it. I think it's important to get as much stuff down as possible, and then you can take away things later on. So that makes it easier. But I like to cover all bases. Let's get at least, let's try it on this, playing it through this first. Let's do that. And then we'll decide afterwards. The mixing part is that's half the battle, Actually recording things that's the fun bit. It's knowing what to take out. That's the real skill. I suppose that's where it ends. That's when you stop. Right, okay, that doesn't work. And then once you've gone through all the sounds, you've got nothing left. It's like, okay, well, that's it then. There we go.
Yeah, because you have all your options at that point.
Yeah.
It's not like in the studio when anything can happen. It's kind of like you've got these tools to work with, and it's just about trying to get the best out of them.
Definitely. That's it. There's a lot of back and forth with mixes, and it's not necessarily like someone missing something. You could make two completely different songs depending on the mix. It's just about what you're trying to say with this album, what you're trying to say with this song, and then representing it in the mix. So that's it, really.
How does something like Feel develop that's almost completely separate from what we would expect from you?
That was entirely really. Connor, when he wrote a lot of The Ceiling, to be honest, and he was just trying out new things, especially with the drum parts he had in mind for me. Like I said, after doing Simplicity with Gethin and him firing these ideas out, I think that stayed in Connor's mind when he was writing stuff for The Ceiling, because he was like, right, I really want to push the boundaries, and Feel was a result of that. Playing around with loads of different gadgets and things like that, different feels.
Does this photo book and the single you're about to take out, do they kind of feel like you capping off The Ceiling? Is that kind of finishing off this period in the band's life?
I don't know. I'd hate to say it is, because I don't feel like we didn't really get the chance to fully, give The Ceiling what it's owed. So I think this is kind of I suppose it is like a last push for the Ceiling, just to remind people that we did in fact release that album, because I don't know, I don't feel a bit like we got to play the songs a lot. I think we did like 2 tours, which wasn't a lot really, and then the whole world went to shit. So I think the next few tours that we do, I think we'll probably play a lot more off The Ceiling, just because I think it deserves it. And looking back onto those songs, they're really good stuff, because we haven't played them in ages. We haven't seen each other. So with all that's like, I've gone back and listened to a few of them. Like, that's it, I really feel they didn't get their time. I suppose it is like the last thing, but I don't like saying that because I feel like I'm doing it. I'm stabbing it in the back, but.
When you were going back and listening to it, and you were kind of hearing some of the songs that were kind of prompting those feelings, and that you wish you had a little bit more time with the album to perform it live, were there any songs in particular that were kind of sparking that for you?
Well, I think the first tour we did, the first big one after it was released, we would open with Look in Passing. It starts off, it builds and builds and builds. So that one was definitely one for me. Feel, I did a few drum clinics over lockdown, and I chose that one just because it's a bit out of our songs. It's not just a 4/4 beat kind of thing. So that one's very, very fun to play. I'll tell you what, I don't miss playing Driving at Night because it absolutely knackers me out. I did mine, but it's like Connor's favourite song as well. But honestly, I can't. I just lock up. I can't. I need to get back in the gym before I need to fucking.
Do you have to kind of tactically place it in the set list? Maybe put it a little bit towards the end, so it's not right at the beginning.
That was my request, but they were like, "No, we're playing it first. We're opening with that song." I'm like, "Jesus Christ, you're going to kill me!" So by the second song, I'm knackered. Like, I'm ready to call it a day with that. I'm trying to think what other songs are even on there, to be honest. But yeah, I think we'll definitely get back in the studio, maybe even put a new spin on some of them, just so they can translate live. I'm just looking forward to trying that stuff out with the rest of the lads.
When you say put a new spin on them, what exactly do you mean by that?
Just because sometimes where, say for a song like Fear, doesn't necessarily, like on record sounds amazing, but it just doesn't translate live. So sometimes you just have to switch it up, add some things to reinforce it. We did that with 17, and it sounds a lot better live now. and just stuff like that. Like we take inspiration, like Radiohead. A lot of they have songs on record and then songs from live, and they'll just play it completely differently, which I love the idea of that. But you still get the same. It's still the same song that you know and love.
And they quite often used to bring songs into the set list like years before they would come out as well.
Yeah.
Like, I think they were playing songs like Nude back in like 99. It didn't come out until like 2007 or whatever.
I know. I mean, they're just creative geniuses, really, isn't there? It's like, it actually makes me a bit depressed listening to Radiohead. Like, I'll never be this smart as a musician. But, yeah.
You mentioned that you've been doing a few like tutorials and like lectures and stuff, and did you say you brought in Phil? You were kind of talking about that?
Yeah, I just did like usually just start off with a couple songs or something and then do a Q&A thing. And I did Feel and What We Haven't Got Yet.
Are you playing them, or do you break them down a little bit as well?
No, I'll just play them all the way through. If anyone's got any questions about it, then yeah, I'll just go back to, timings and things like that, and just dynamics of the song, why I chose to play that there and not there, things like that. Like I said, a lot of those songs on there was Connor's ideas, and then I just translate them onto the drums. I didn't change a fat lot that he showed me because he used to be a drummer, so he kind of gets the job that I have to do. He understands what it needs. So 9 times out of 10 we agree on it anyway. So
does that make it easier to communicate your own ideas as well when the person you're talking to is kind of coming from a similar background?
It does. It is easier because it saves him having to like tell me. Like if he comes in with just a guitar riff or something, he doesn't need to specify what he wants in regards to drums, because usually I already know what he wants, and it's kind of like a rule of thumb. It does get difficult when he'll bring something I don't particularly like it, and then want to rearrange it, because I understand that it's taken a lot of effort for this idea to get to where he's wanted it, and now he's got me telling him no, I don't like it. So there's sometimes tension there, but that's every band. Every band goes through that.
As long as you can back yourself, and you can explain why you don't like it.
We always give every idea a go, and if it sounds crap, then it sounds crap and it doesn't get used. so there you go. And if you're outnumbered, then sorry, mate, you've lost. Or sometimes we go, can we at least try it this way? And then we'll do it and go, actually, that does sound a lot better. And then we'll do that. So, and we'll all have a big hug and a kiss and whatever.
We're talking there about like being creative as a group. Do you still find the need to be creative when you're not with the band? Like we're saying, you've been separated from them for the last year.
I've been feeling really guilty about that, because I thought, I'm not going to be doing a fat lot with the band, obviously, because of everything that's going on. So I might as well focus on myself as just a drummer, really, try and further that. But I've really personally just really struggled with motivation. I know a lot of other musicians have felt the same as well. I've been trying. I have a lockup. It's literally 2 minutes up the road. It's got all my drums in and all the guitars in and everything like that. And I just haven't. I've been going up as much as I can, but I go up and I maybe spend 15 minutes there, and then get bored. And it's just highlighted how much I miss the collaborative process, really. Even if it's just me and Alex, or just me and Connor, or especially if it's all of us. It's out of that collaborative process that you then explore your own ideas. But without that, I'm kind of just sitting there, just playing drums, which just gets really boring after a bit.
Is it almost like you need a goal to work toward as well, and something to kind of center yourself around?
What do you mean?
Like if you're working with the guys, you'd be working on a song. Whereas when you're going up there, do you have anything in mind in terms of what you want to achieve?
Yeah.
Maybe you're just going up to the lockup?
I try and, I listen to new music. I go, oh, I really like that feel. I'll try and picture it in a Jaws song. So well, I need to try and work out how to play that fit, get that feel, play that myself. So I go up there with that, and then instantly, if I can't get it, I'm so bad for just going, oh, forget it. Oh, I can't be bothered. And then I end up playing along to songs that I've been listening to. Like I end up playing along to like Queens of the Stone Age or something, just because it's fun. And then I go to the pub. That's it. And it's just like, oh, that was annoying because I haven't really got anything out of the day there. But I've learned I need to start giving myself a break, because sometimes if it's not there, if you force it, that's not going to help either, and you might end up just resenting it, So I've just decided that once I stop like getting what I want out of it, just to leave it, because if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. And sometimes it does happen, and I'm in there for hours, and I feel great, and I feel like the best drummer on earth, and then I break a stick.
I saw you got new cymbals a few weeks ago. Can that help? Kind of getting a new toy to play around with?
Defo. It's like when a guitarist gets a new guitar pedal. It's just it makes you play. It does make you play a bit differently. Like I've got this brand new Rise cymbal, but for some reason it was just like the exact sounds of "Are You Gonna Go My Way" by Lenny Kravitz. I instantly played that song. It was just really, it is fun. It does give you like a new lease of life. That's when you start to accidentally play something. You're like, oh, actually, I'll use that. I'll keep that for next time we're jamming or something.
Do you need to be recording, or can you just remember it?
I tend to just do like a really crap recording on my phone. Like it sounds terrible, but as long as I know the basics, then I'll be able to play it again. I just do a crap recording on my phone or something. I've got a bunch of voice notes. Just they're only like 30 seconds, some of them. I'll just listen back to them, and then that just gets me started again to back where I start, and then it goes from there. So that's really useful, actually. But as far as like properly recording, I'm really crap at it, and I haven't got the patience as much as Connor. I tried it. I borrowed microphones from my mates and everything, but I was like, oh, I'm useless at this. Once by the time I've set up proper microphones and things, I can't be arsed playing. I was like, I've got so frustrated trying to get everything to work. You can guarantee you've got a dodgy XLR lead or something, or and then you put your in-ears in. It's just like, this sounds terrible. It's like, can't be bothered to go through it all again. So now I just do a voice note on my phone now. So then when we do eventually meet up again, because we rarely have band practice because we all live in such different places, that when we do have band practice, it's like we all turn up with like our best stuff that we've collected over that time that we haven't spent together. So we all bring our A game, and that's how songs born, really. What
you were saying there about how you wouldn't do the kind of proper or more professional recording because it can just get a little bit fiddly. Is it almost breaking the momentum? Like, is it quite like a fast kind of flowing headspace when you're in that moment, and does it almost just inhibit that?
Yeah, definitely. So it'll be like over the course of a week. So like I'll go up and I'll do something that I really like, or I'll write something here on guitar at home and go, right, on Thursday I'm going to go up and set the microphones up and record this. I'd start setting them up, and by the time I've set them all up, I can't be asked recording it. So I was like, well, they're set up now, so I'll go up and actually record it when I can be asked. And then so I get up there, I've listened to it, and I've decided it doesn't sound very good anyway. It's just I don't know whether that's just because like the lockdown or whatever. I've realised I need other people, other musicians around me to work with.
You're something to bounce off of.
Definitely, yeah. It just really helps.
Do you prefer the way you kind of go about it now, where you're saying you'll take a few months before you do a rehearsal, where you'll all like kind of collect your best ideas? Because I imagine when you first started, it would have been like weekly rehearsals. Do you prefer it now when it's a little bit more spaced out and you can all bring your A game in that way?
I'd prefer it if we met up more often than we do at the moment. So I think we would all agree with that. Just because sometimes you can come up with something really great off the cuff that you wasn't even planning on making. And then it's kind of frustrating because you won't see each other for another month or so. And you know that by the time it gets around to that time, that whole thing that you did would have been forgotten unless you record it. But sometimes you just forget, and it's, I don't know. So I think once this lockdown's over, we're definitely going to meet up a lot more often. And obviously we've got things happening again, which always puts a lot more energy into like the Jaws headquarters or whatever you want to call it. It just makes us excited again and gets us all talking about music again, which, you know, sparks inspiration. So even releasing a book or announcing a tour or anything gets you excited, makes you want to start writing this again.
When did the book come into the picture?
So we did a tour in 2019, and it was a pretty big tour for us. We were doing some pretty big venues, and like some of the biggest venues ever done. And up to that point, we were taking a photographer out with us, but the guy that was coming out with us up to that point, he wasn't able to do that tour for some reason. So we were in need of a photographer, and Connor knew Peter Lally, who's behind this book. I think they skate together down in London. So Connor just asked the question if he wanted to come and do some photos on this tour. We were all fine with that, yeah, far away. And he just came along and started taking photos, whatever. I think we came along, and I think it started out in just asking permission for him to use these pictures for this thing he was going to do. But yeah, far away, that's fine. And then after a bit, I think we just realised there was an opportunity for us to work together on it properly. And obviously COVID slowed down that idea, because we didn't want to release it just randomly. We wanted it to be in conjunction with something, that to be some kind of order with it. Just don't want to release it in the middle of something, you know, and nothing happened. It deserves a bit more than that. So we decided to release it now, because in conjunction with the tour and everything, and then this new song as well. So it's kind of like a triple threat for people. You know, I've got this book, got this tour, and everything's all happening. So
hitting them from all angles.
Yeah. So we're really happy with it, and I love it. You know, I just love it does give more of a personal touch to every single photograph, because I mean, social media's kind of taken over everything at the moment. Right now, I mean, especially photography. You see some great photos, but it gets uploaded to Instagram, and that's the only way it gets noticed. It just gets lost in the ocean that is Instagram. So I think releasing something like this, it gives the photos their own identity and just a bit more special, a bit more personal touch to it. And it's also a good representation of what tour is actually like, to be honest. A lot of sitting around, a lot of sitting around waiting to go on stage, sitting in a van, eating crap food, eating loads of crisps. So I'm interested to see what the fans think, obviously, but also interested to see what other bands what make of it if they ever get a copy, because I'd imagine they'd be able to relate to a lot of this. So.
It seems like Peter has quite an intimate style. Like, he kind of captures these small little moments that a lot of photographers might not.
Yeah, well, he was really good at like taking pictures without you noticing, which is kind of the best way to do it, because you really capture what he's actually like, instead of, you know, we've had some gigs with some bands and they have a photographer with them and they're just posing for the camera. It's like, well, there's nothing interesting there. It's just your face. Yeah,
it's a little bit fake as well. They've kind of got the moody pout on the go.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. We've had a few like Vogue sessions in here, like, but we try not to. Peter didn't want it to be that. If Connor said to him, "Oh, take a picture of me," he'd be like, "No, I'm not taking." Because you've asked me to take a picture, I'm not going to do it now. The only one that he said, let's do a photo shoot, is the one with Jurgen Klopp in Liverpool. So that was fun. But now, other than that, he's really good at just capturing true moments. Like I said, it is a lot of waiting around, a lot of knackers you are doing fuck all, really. and then you do an hour gig, which is all really exciting. and it's really not exciting. So
I think as well with what you were kind of doing with that stage show and the way you were playing with light, because you had like the cubes. How many cubes did you have again on stage that were kind of bouncing light and reflecting it?
I think there was like 4 of them. They were like these semicircle reflector things. Lighting engineer Rob Cartin, he's the guy who built the Jaws sign as well. We just let him do what he wants. He's like a madman. He takes over his living room. He's only got a small living room, and that's where he builds everything. And much to his fiance's annoyance, but yeah, I got 4 of those, and they like made a real difference as well. And Peter managed to capture the lights so well. I love it. I just love like I don't know what the fancy word is for it, but he just managed to get it spot on.
Because the way it hits those cubes, the light almost like fractures. Yeah. Like it'll hit the cube from one direction, it goes off in like 1,000 different places.
That's it. Yeah, that's right. I love it though. I'm really happy with it.
How was your approach to like the stage production and building a show developed like with each record? Yeah,
well, I mean, after Simplicity, I think we all had the conscious decision we need to do something about the stage show, because it shows the sign of that you're growing as a band, just make you look a bit more professional. So we try and do something a bit different every time. We started out with these like lamps that you'd have in your nan's living room, and then we'll probably just keep the Jaws lights just because it's become like a staple of the show. Like it's a Jaws gig when those are on. But yeah, I mean, we kind of take it over to Rob, who's really good at that kind of thing, because I'm useless at like, if I come up with something that someone go, no, that's going to be way too expensive. No, you can't you can't all ride on stage in the Harley Davidson. No, it can't do that. So as much as I'd love to, but who knows? But it also depends on what venues you're playing, because obviously we've got this November tour is a smaller tour. We'll be limited in what we can take, but you'll be amazed what you can cram onto a tiny stage and piss off the venue stuff with. So.
When we've spoken about the tour and we've touched on the photo book, and the last kind of portion of that triple threat is the new single.
Yeah.
When did that was that the final thing to be added to this piece of the puzzle? This kind of everything you're releasing at the moment? Yeah,
kind of, yeah. It was all based around the book, really. That was the main focus. So we all had like a big meeting about it. How do you want to do it? And we were all in agreement. We don't want to just do it on its own because it's just too random. So we was like, we've got this song that's been on the back burner since The Ceiling was released. And we also want to go on a tour. So we just worked that out, and just the way it ended up was release the tour, the book and the tour first. Yeah. Once you've got some interest, that's just a good idea to release a song around then. Just creates a bit more buzz around you.
Did this come from, do you have like a vault of almost like Jaws songs that didn't quite make records that you can dive into and have a little look for something?
We've got like Untitled is one of the ones that are like properly recorded in a professional studio that's mastered and mixed and ready to go. We have other songs that are demos that we may revisit, and other songs that are mastered and mixed and everything that are just terrible songs, which probably wouldn't we were like, what were we thinking even recording that, It's not a massive vault though. Like, I think a lot of the time it's a lot of little snippets of stuff that we record, and then we'll take it to the practice studio, write a full song, so it's kind of ready in that way, and then we'll demo it and then take it to the studio. So they're kind of quickly in and out of the machine. But no, we don't really hoard too much music.
Was Untitled done with Gethin again?
Yeah, it was during the Ceiling sessions when we worked at Vale Studios. Gethin was a lot of synth work in this one, which Gethin is just a wizard with. We'd have a synth, like once you've done everything, or the main bits like the drums, the bass guitar, we'd have dinner or something, or do some vocals maybe, and then we'd have synth hour or synth night. We'd get all the synths out,
like happy hour, but synth hour.
Yeah, we'd get all the synths out, just try them all. This was during the Simplicity actually, and it would usually start around 10 o'clock, and it would go on until 3 o'clock in the morning, playing with synths, getting pissed. It's the best way to do it. But it was really good, and we got some. So after that, we just carried on working like that. Really, and it was good.
Was there a version of The Ceiling with Untitled on it? Did it ever fit in the track listing at any point?
No, it was during the discussions about the track listing that, unfortunately, Untitled just didn't quite make the cut. So there was talks of doing like a deluxe version where it would have been on it, but it didn't make sense to do that at the time. We were going to use it though. We had the decision like it's not just going to be stashed away and never used again. It was just a case of finding the right opportunity to release it, and now there is one. So that's why it's happening now.
Was that the same case with Anyway Now's Not the Time?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it was those two songs that did make the cut. Anyway Now's Not the Time came out just because that was around the time we was unsure about where this pandemic was going. I think the idea was we were going to release that and maybe do a tour like we're doing now, but then it all went to shit. So,
when you kind of listen to Untitled in the context of The Ceiling, when you hear The Ceiling, every song is its very kind of own distinct thing, if that makes sense. Like, although it's cohesive, they all kind of serve a role and are all doing something quite different to each other. Was the reason it didn't make it on just because it was kind of falling a little bit in between?
Yeah, there were little doubts about those two songs. Only very little though. They could have easily made the cut, but when it came down to track listing and there was an issue in regards to the vinyl, it became clear that we would need to either have been like a 3 CD thing or sacrifice a couple songs. I didn't like the idea of doing 3 CDs, just seemed messy. So that's just how it came about. And because there were absolute definites that were making it, unfortunately, they just ended up at the bottom of the list. So,
can it ever be frustrating when you have those creative constraints that are a little bit out with your control, or those physical constraints rather, that have to inform the creative decisions, or can it help?
Sometimes it is frustrating. It was frustrating, I know, especially for Connor, because he really liked the song Untitled. I mean, we all did, but it was sometimes you've got to think about it in the long run. It would be beneficial, and there's just ways around it. But yeah, it can be frustrating, but also it can benefit you by, if you can only release a certain amount of songs, then you only pick your best ones, which isn't a bad thing, because you know that whoever's going to listen to it, going to get some really good stuff. Although maybe shorter than you wanted it to be, you bring in like the cream of the crop sort of thing.
How far ahead do you think as a band?
It's literally as far as the next thing. Like, so for example, we're thinking as far as this tour that we've just released, and then we'll do it and then think about what to do next. And that's how we don't think about, I suppose we've thought about, we want to go into the studio after that tour as soon as possible. What studio, who with, for how long, or what songs? We haven't thought about that yet. So, and that's far. It just kind of, because I think if you think too far ahead, you run the risk of disappointment, really. Because if you don't get to do those things, you see it as a failure or feel like that, and it can get you down. You try and just look to the near future, very near future.